It's
It's
fun
cool
though.
though.
And for me, it's more like I'm trying to build like different avenues after I'm a pro. You know what I mean? I'm trying to
Yeah,
like, because some people will do like the streaming. For me, I feel like I want to do like, I don't know, talent or going to like work for Riot on the
yeah.
game or something. I don't know if I see myself becoming like a streamer after.
It is. I mean, it is. Once you're kind of in, you can definitely get the consistency with the work and all that.
Yeah.
But also, you started with like Mimi and GB, right? That's
Yeah.
like easy mode.
No, it
Mimi is
is.
so good at
It's they
because
just feed me, dude. They
that's when I
feed me.
started to working with those two when I didn't know what to do for the
Yeah.
big scale production because I'd only done the small things online.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, working with Mimi is just like GB is
Dude,
such a pro, and Mimi just knows how to organize everything so
yeah.
well that
She can talk about anything too. It's
it just
impressive.
it makes the whole process so streamlined and
Yeah.
simple, which is
It's
nice. Like
so simple.
just picked up everything so fast
Hmm.
working with them.
Yeah.
But
No, I
yeah,
feel the same.
is everything looking
We're
good?
We're
Okay.
rolling.
Oh, everything's just rolling. Okay, cool. I mean, the first thing I just wanted to ask you is just like how you've been doing since the win at the Ascension LAN, because that was the one massive tournament for you all year.
Yeah.
Everything leading up to that, you took the win, mission accomplished, and now you basically just have the rest of the year off. So, how have you been doing in the past month and a half or so since then, and kind of in comparison to some of that time leading up to it?
Yeah, so the time leading up to the event, obviously we're practicing like really hard and it's very stressful, right? And you kind of build up, at least for me, I feel like I build up a lot of stress like during the season. So the last month and a half, I've really just been doing like whatever I feel like. Sometimes I do nothing, sometimes I go out and, chill with my friends or I'll hang out with family. Um, and yeah, I'm just kind of decompressing and kind of letting go of a lot of like the built up like dude, being in that season, like a lot of anxiety, like stress, you know what I mean? And now it's just like, okay, job done, we chill, and I'm doing this. Like I took like a pretty long break. I haven't really played much since we won Brazil, to be honest. And I think it's because I'm trying to prep myself for like next year. And I've always said like once you have the off time, you always take it. I know a lot of players like they'll win a tournament and they'll be in the off season and they'll just grind streaming and grind the game hella hard. And I feel like eventually you burn out. Like some people can do it for like a year or even 2 years, but eventually if you just like neglect family or you neglect your friends and you really don't take the time to just decompress and just chill as a human being, bro, it gets way too much. And that's why I know I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but
No, you're good.
I think like that's why like mental health in esports is such a big topic and people struggle with it because there's like this huge trap of people think, oh, I just need to play more, play more, play more. And there's like no time for break. Like I'll sleep when I'm dead type mentality. And I think it's a trap. You definitely in any like hectic and stressful environment or work, like type of work, you need to have your off time as well. Um, so yeah, in a nutshell, bro, I've been doing nothing. I've been just chilling, and I've been enjoying it.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you're just like back home with your friends, outside gaming, like family, all
yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
thing.
So, I mean, I go back home. I live in like San Francisco, so it's a quick flight between LA and San Francisco, and I just go back and I see my boys like from high school. I'm still close with like a lot of them, and like I see my girlfriend there. I see my family. My siblings. It's just like a good time, just reconnecting with everyone, and it kind of makes me feel like human again, dude. Like being here, if you feel like a robot, just waking up, practice, wake up, practice, rinse and repeat because you have like a job to complete. And then once that's done, it's like okay, back to being like a normal human. Like talk like get back with your relationships. Like talk to people. Yeah.
On the mental health point, is that something that you try to instill in the rest of your teammates as the leader of the team? Is that something also maybe like the guard organization or the sort of higher ups try to also push onto the team?
Yeah, well, the reason why I feel like I have this like knowledge of like the mental health and burning out is because I was a part of that trap before, like where I took no time off and I'm like, nah, I won't go back home. I'll just stay in LA for these 2 weeks and keep playing so I don't lose my form, right? Like I've heard this a lot, even from my teammates. But one thing like my manager taught me, Saywolf from the guard, he kind of through my experiences told me like, bro, you need this off time. Like you need to go back home. And really everyone's different. And I think for me, I tend to want to go back a bit more and see my family more. I think I'm very family oriented, and that's kind of the thing that brings me happiness a lot. So it really just depends on the person. But yeah, so Sail Wolf kind of taught me throughout my experiences like, yo, like you need breaks. Always take your breaks when you have it, because you're gonna get to a point in the season where you wish you had it, like you wish you know, had some fun time in your break, right? So kind of he taught me not to take it for granted.
For sure. During the downtime, do you still like keep in touch with your teammates a lot, or do you kind of all try and dissociate, take that time for yourselves away from each other, and then like reconvene when it's time to get back to work?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I'm still a gamer, right? So I'll still hop on Discord and like chill with the boys. So we're always like associated, even when we're on like long breaks.
Yeah.
And we're just friends outside of the game too. So when you have that dynamic, it's like a break away from the stressful part of gaming, which is like the competing and the practice and, you know, trying to maintain like a high level of form so you can win throughout the year is very mentally taxing. And once you disassociate from that and you're just kind of having fun with the boys, it really feels like even if I'm playing Valorant, it's like I'm still on break because I'm not doing anything that's putting stress on my mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So this year, as mentioned, you won the Ascension tournament. It was a tournament in which only winning mattered.
Right.
The inverse, last year, it was the same situation at LCQ, a tournament where only winning mattered. There's nothing for second place in that qualifier, but you finished in second. What was the contrast and what came after that last year to everything you just told me now?
I think. Wait, so can you kind of reframe? Like, can you like restate the question? Like, what you want to know the differences between
Yeah, so
what happened last time and now?
yeah, so how did you handle the off season after losing at LCQ last year
Okay,
versus how you handle it
after
now with the
winning.
winning? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I got you. Yeah, so the offseason when we lost, I would say was at the beginning different. Like obviously we're very sad and I'm watching people compete at champs when I was so close to making it. And it felt like there was a lot of uncertainty because we lost, right? So we don't know the vision of the guard. We don't know if players want to go their separate routes because there were rumors of, or actually, I don't even know if it was rumors. I think it was confirmed franchising going into the next year, right? So after we lost at LCQ, the biggest thing on our mind is like franchising is next. Are we going to be on the same team? So it was a bit more hectic. But after about a month of being away from like practicing and all that, at least for myself, I think I started chilling again and just like getting my mind off the game, not worrying about the franchising stuff. And like I know for me, I try to like be more active in the off season because during season, at least for me being IGL, it's like, dude, I wake up, I go to prac. After prac, like I try to keep my mechanics up or I'll watch VODs and like try to create new strategy, you know what I mean? So it feels like it's 24/7 really. It's like wake up, like eat, sleep, Valorant. And so when I'm in the off season, I try to like get back in the gym a lot, try to be more active. So I feel like with that, like being my like plan after, it kind of feels the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
I
I'm
got
doing
you.
the same thing in the off season regardless if I win or lose, but the beginning will always be different depending on the result, if that makes sense. Like am I stressed? Am I happy? Am I, you know, anxious of what's next? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine there was a lot of anxiety throughout the 2022 offseason as to what was next. That was, like you're saying, that's when the partnership system was announced. 10 of the organizations in Americas
Yeah.
would be guaranteed slots in your team, the Guard, despite being one of the best teams in North America. The organization didn't get a spot. So, what was the team's response to that? What was like the first conversation when you and your teammates, Coach MC, got together with that news?
Yeah, so I remember I was on a flight and literally right before we took off, we got the news that like we didn't make it. And that it was so like disheartening, honestly, because we put so much work in and we felt like we did a lot for Valorant. Like we created a lot of content even throughout our runs. We had, you know, great runs, great story for the game. And, you know, not only did we, place well, we also in our minds felt like we contributed to the growth of the game socially a lot because dude, guard was pumping out so much content around that time, and that's effort out of us too to like make that.
Yeah.
So it sucked. It felt like we kind of, it's hard to describe, but it felt like we had a chip on our shoulder after that, and we were like, damn, we didn't make it. And we had the first discussion was, dude, we're going to make it regardless. Like, it sucks. We understand that, but we're also young. And we understood that it's okay for us to take like the way I worded it was like a development year in Challengers. You're still growing as a player, as a person. And this year is really just solidifying you in like all of your categories as a player to make sure you're ready when you go into franchising. That's something that I was like pitching to my teammates a lot. It's like, guys, I know you're probably going to get offers, but it's not a bad idea if you just take it on the chin and you don't play on the league this year to make sure as an individual you are better. Because now that I look back, yes, we qualified for Iceland and yes, we got finals at LCQ, but we were very incomplete players. And I think if we went into the league right after that, I think we would still do damage, but our like lack of experience would show a lot more. Because this year we went through a lot, like lower bracket runs, losing. It was a roller coaster, and I think that's what kind of builds you as a player to be able to keep a stable mentality throughout a long season like America's, right? So yeah, in a nutshell, really we just had that convo like, yo, we should stay together and develop as a team, because also the culture of the guard, it's so easy to learn there. No one has ego, like at least between us. Like it feels the way we talk to each other is just so respectful, and we grow together and learn together because we did this from the start. Like we were together from the start. Our careers really took off together, right? So we just had this really strong respect for one another, which kind of told us like, if you want to grow as a player and get better at Valorant and learn the game, it's like you should do it with this group of guys because everything I just said. And we did. We decided to stay together, even though some people, like as everyone knows, everyone had like offers.
Yeah. So I remember you had posted yourself that I think it was you and Net. I think you had first publicly posted that you had offers, and I remember your follow-up response to you saying you were open to offers was that was the hardest thing that you had to post.
Yeah.
It was just not something that you wanted to do, but it's interesting to hear that you guys wanted to stick together from the very beginning, that you knew that right away.
Yeah.
So what was that process like, exploring offers with other teams? Did you try out for a lot of teams? And then also, was it kind of just in the back of your mind the whole time that you didn't even want to take any of the offers that were coming in? It was just to see what was out there?
Yeah. So just for clarity, I think the community thinks that I had like a bunch of offers for tier 1 franchise, which honestly is not true. I had like 1 or 2 teams reaching out for interest and nothing was final, but I had like a lot of offers coming in for challengers teams, like all the like tier 2 orgs that didn't make franchising. And I had, like I said, I had a couple in tier 1, and I would say that's about the same for everyone except maybe Trent. I think Trent had he was doing pretty good for himself at that time because he was popping off.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me it was like, yeah, this is cool. These offers are cool, but unless something really stuck out to me that could be like life-changing or just an incredible roster, I wasn't even really paying attention to people coming into my DMs, because I knew, like I'm telling you, I knew this was the winning team for challengers since the start. Just the culture we had, the amount we learn in a short like time span, like it was kind of like a bet on my team. For everyone kind of bet on themselves and bet on the team, and it paid off. So,
and despite having those conversations, you guys did change some things. I don't know if that was of your intention or not, but sayaplayer had decided to leave and return to T1, a team that he was previously on. So that was the first person straying away from the core of the team. And you had said that he was a great friend and also a role model.
yeah.
And I wanted to ask you what it was about him that puts him in that category in your mind.
Yeah, so great friend and role model is perfect words to describe Saya. Great teammate. I would say we were very inexperienced, like all of us. Um, outside of the game, like real life experience in the game, and Saya kind of guided us through all that. Um, to frame it so you kind of understand what I'm talking about. Like he would talk to me about like relationships, like girls, and even the game. Like he was just guiding me through the esports because he's been through it all. You know what I mean? Like sayaplayer in Korea, like a big name, and he always had people like coming up to him. So he kind of taught me like how to handle um, getting recognized, how to handle stressful moments in the game, how to kind of carry yourself as a person. Really, he guided me through all that because we were fresh, like we didn't understand what was happening, right? And I'd come up to him and be like, oh, like what should I do here, or any type of situation. I mean, like he was literally a bro, like he was a big bro, and um, inside of the game, man, he kind of developed like he put this level of confidence within the team that I don't think anyone else could do at the time because he's been in this situation before. Like he's played in stressful matches, and he always said like, "We fucking got this. Like we're gonna win this." And whenever people were feeling down on themselves, he was the one to kind of help them up. Um, and it was also like kind of like a rocky road because, as everyone knows, we had MCE, and sometimes like people would kind of fall under the pressure of Matt because he was a hard coach, right? Everyone knows that. And Saya would also like help us with that, like, oh, like don't take it the wrong way, like we're just trying to learn, like just putting the team first in all situations, man. It's hard to explain everything on my mind right now, but yeah, you can kind of understand how I'm trying to portray this person.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and yeah, he was just so great for the team. Like unlucky things didn't work out between us, and truthfully I don't know like the 100% reason to what happened. I think he just had a better opportunity at T1, um, but after that, we just picked up another player and kept going.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. A lot of the things that you said about him, I think people's first assumption would be that that is what you would say, and maybe you would also say it about Matt MC, the coach of the team, because he was so regarded for what he was able to do, bringing you and your teammates who were inexperienced together and creating something that felt like the sum was better than the parts.
Right.
And you would say that he was your greatest mentor. And I would imagine, at least looking in, that him departing from the team and going to Cloud9 this year to be in the partnership league would be a huge blow for you guys. And I'm wondering how you dealt with that, and then also how the rest of the team dealt with that.
Yeah, so I remember when we were first told that Matt was going to Cloud9, it was honestly pretty shocking at the time because it felt like we all wanted to kind of stay together. But I think for Matt, he just had an opportunity that he can't say no to, and he gets to reunite with his boys from Chaos. And he, honestly, if I was in his shoes, I would have also done it probably, just because you have such a talented group of guys going into the partnership league. Like he wants to make waves for his team, and it was definitely hard, but like if my memory serves me correctly, we were we took the news and we like moved on right away. Actually, I think we just had this mindset of like, regardless of what happens to us, we're gonna fucking win this year. Like, excuse my language, but it really was just that serious. Like, regardless of what happens to our team, people leaving, people getting poached or whatever, like this core of guys is gonna win the league. So when we got the news and we really just moved on pretty fast, and there was no bad blood between like us and Matt. He took something that respectfully I probably would too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then after he left, other guys on the team had offers, but at some point it was just you came together and decided like it's just a no to all that. We're sticking together no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, obviously like the logistics and stuff have to make sense for everyone, because if you have offers for a bunch of teams and you're getting offered a certain amount of salary, you can't just be like, "Oh, no, forget the salary, forget all the incentives. I just want to play here." it's not really realistic, right? So I would say it was also a big help from the guard to kind of help like match those offers, and make sure that we were happy going into the year, because it's one thing for us to just say no to everything, but another for us to say no and kind of get like the reciprocated appreciation from the org as well, right? Um, so with that said, it was like, you know, monetarily, like we're fine in that we don't have to like go to other teams for more money. We just want to play together, and so they kind of helped with that and kept the team together. So it was like equal parts, like us as players, but also the guard like stepping up and helping us with that.
Gotcha. You're talking about going into this year with a lot of confidence, but I have to imagine as well that there's a lot of anxiety based on the format, and also, despite believing in yourselves, recognizing that there is only one team that is going to make it through after like nearly 7 months of competition, and there is no second place.
Yeah.
Did you go through? Did you begin the year feeling that way? Did that persist throughout, or were you able to remain confident?
I mean, it was. I can't lie and say that we were confident the whole year. Like, it was definitely a roller coaster, right? You know, we go through at the beginning, we win the Ludwig tournament. So going into the Challenger season, we're like, yep, we're good. Like, we just beat tier 1 teams in a tournament on land. It was actually real land servers too, the Ludwig tournament. So we got that experience, and we had a beautiful start to split 1, but then mid-season happens and we lose to G2 and M80, and we're like, damn, bro, like the whole time in our heads we're like, we're the number 1 team by far, and then you kind of hit that blow of losing to those 2 teams, and in our heads we have much higher expectations than losing to those guys. Like, with all due respect, right, to us it's like there's no way you're ever losing to these teams if you really think that you deserve tier 1 level, right? And so we went through a lot. Like, we were trying to change comps a little bit, like fix small things, and really it just came down to like the pressure in late game situations. You look back when we lost to M80 and G2, we were up to close the games twice, 11-9 and like 11-8 map threes. So it really, like, we learned something about ourselves with those losses, that with pressure we tend to play a little bit more timid, and that's what messed us up in online. And so we're actually grateful we took those losses. We go into the next split feeling confident, and we do well in split 2 as well, and then you get playoffs, right? And playoffs was interesting because I don't know if many people know this, but we were supposed to have like a boot camp as a team, and we ended up like some things happened, and we were not able to get the boot camp, and we're playing from LA, and everyone's on like 3 ping in Texas, and we're sitting here on like very high ping, and we play our first 2 games and we lose to like MXM, and we're like, bro, like we did all this and now we're down in the lower bracket of playoffs. Like, it's hard to retain all that confidence, right? Like you talked about. But yeah, we're like, dude, we got to get this boot camp. So we paid, like, us as players came together and we got a boot camp for ourselves, like as the players. And shout out to version 1, like they helped us out because they knew like it's the players kind of coming together and trying to do this. So they helped us out and gave us a very fair deal. So we were able to go to V1. And since then, we didn't lose a single map in the lower bracket, and we clean sweeped it. And that's where I would say like our confidence was at the all-time high. So you came in confident, winning Ludwig. You lose some tragic games and it goes down, and then you're back up because we qualified for Brazil or Ascension the hardest way possible, through the lower bracket, and dropped no maps. So after that, dude, I'm like, yo, we went through the pressure. Like I talked about before, we were a team that always struggled with the pressure, but we were in lower bracket do or die situations for 3 games, and we didn't drop any maps, and we looked clean throughout. So I'm like, okay, we learned how to deal with pressure. We showed that we can do it. Going into Brazil, I knew we were going to win. If we made that lower bracket run happen, there's nothing stopping us. And I would say there wasn't a doubt ever when I was at that tournament that we weren't going to win.
Do you think up until that point you guys had dealt with a problem of struggling to close out games, struggling to find success in the big moments? Because that was kind of the like 2022 guard story? Was that the moment where you broke through the psychological glass ceiling?
Yeah, so I would say our biggest struggles were not closing out late game situations. And I think people just took less risks and we just played very scared and timid when it came down to big moments. So it's kind of like you're looking at each other for someone to make the play instead of yourself, right? And when that happens, um, that you just can't play Valorant that way. If you sit back, it's also on defense. It's always on defense. This happens to us where we're just scared to make these pushes or these mid round adjustments because we're afraid that it could cost the game right here. But that's how you have to approach the matches, right? And that's how you approach the games. And we learned the hard way. We took some hard losses, but I can confidently say that that's not a problem anymore. And I'm glad that we went through those issues earlier in the year instead of facing that at the end, right? Um, so yeah, we learned, but it took a while to kind of get that down.
Because you said on the day that you won the Ascension tournament that you liked the pressure and you liked playing in front of the crowd.
Yeah.
Was that just how much truth was there in that? Like 100%?
100%. So I think after that lower bracket run, at least for myself, dude, I had this I had so much inner confidence that throughout the pressure, because in the lower bracket, we went into those games, dude, swinging hard. We were firing together, playing together. All the micro comms were there. People were calming great. And after that, I'm like, dude, bring the pressure on. I hope, because when both teams feel the pressure, and we had this inner confidence that, dude, we thrive in this shit more than the other team, right? So especially when I stepped onto that stage and I heard the crowd, I'm like, dude, we are ready for this. We are built for this. We've went through so much, losing to get to this moment, and I wasn't going to let it slip. I mean, when we look back, 3-0, 100 Thieves not to make champions. You go to Iceland for your first LAN, you don't win a series. It's we went through a lot of losing in high pressure moments in order to get ready for this. And really, I could confidently say this for myself and my team, we weren't going to let this one slip. We couldn't. And bro, winning clutches, winning maps with the crowd on your back. We were the home team in Brazil. They were cheering for us so hard because M80, obviously M80 and Union had their little beef, right? So it was kind of fuck M80 at that tournament for Brazil. So they rode with us. And there's 100% truth. We were so dialed in under the pressure. And man, just looking back, I have a smile on my face thinking about
Yeah.
that.
I mean, how did it feel to win the final round after the year of everything? Again, I mean, I keep saying it, but the format is brutal. I mean, it is an entire year. You've committed everything to this team to play one game that if you slipped up one time, your whole year was probably, I mean, I would imagine felt like a waste to some extent.
No, actually.
So, how did it feel when you just won the final round?
Well, first I want to compare 2 wins because when we beat Moist Moguls in playoffs to qualify for Brazil, I was so relieved that dude, I literally shed a tear. I wasn't bawling out, but I was so happy and talking to my guys dude, we qualified after everything, and I literally shed a tear out of joy and relief. But then, in theory, it should be even more special to win Ascension, right? And I don't know what it was, but after I won, I felt like I didn't feel anything. I wasn't that happy. It's hard to describe the feeling because I would just say, dude, we were so dialed in. And I remember watching some vlogs from Optic when they won Reykjavik. And I remember Marv was he literally said when they won, wait, we just did it. He didn't even realize. And I think that's a real thing. When you're just dialed in and you're so focused on the game that you're not thinking about anything else. You're not thinking about making Ascension. You're not thinking about playing good. It just kind of flies by. And I would say it took a little bit, a week, for me to really sit down and be like, dude, I fucking won. This is the best feeling. So happy. Because, in the moment, compared to when I was so happy versus MXM, that was a relief. But for this one, I felt like I knew we were gonna win. So it was like, yep, we did it type thing, and I didn't feel too much emotion. Now, if I was like nervous and scared and just like hoping we won, dude, I'd be so relieved. I'd be jumping for joy, right?
Yeah.
But really, we went to that match with no emotion because we wanted to play good so bad, and we understood throughout previous losses, like playing with too much emotion or going into it wanting it so much is only going to lead to like you playing more scared or you making more mistakes when you put so much like weight onto the match, right? So we went into it just like any other game, and yeah.
Yeah, I read an interview that you had done a couple years ago when you were playing with Complexity, and you said that getting signed to Cole was the happiest moment of your career. Has this topped that one, or was it
Definitely.
Moguls, or which one is at the top now?
I'm not gonna lie, me qualifying for Iceland with the guys last year is definitely my top moment still. Even though Ascension is a much bigger accomplishment in the grand scheme of things, dude, that was my first like breakout. I was really a nobody in the scene. I'm desperate to make my name out there to show people what I can do. And to qualify for an international tournament, especially at that time, because the game was so competitive, like in NA especially, it felt like all the eyes were on me now. And it's like, dude, what? Like, I just went from a complete nobody to qualifying on the biggest stage, the first international land of the year, and nothing has topped that since.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that was a crazy moment, and then there was so much hype, and then sadly, you guys went 0-2 at that event. In retrospect, being the leader that you are now with more experience, what would you have done differently then, or like if you could tell the you of then going into that event, what would that be? What would you say?
I would say like just have fun, and it's hard to like it really just comes down to that is having fun because I put so much weight and like pressure on myself and pressure on the guys to have a good tournament, and we thought like, oh, we're doing so well, we can win this tournament, all this. And I think that's what messed us up because you put so much like emotion into these matches and like you want it so bad that it actually is the outcome is going to be the reverse. That's something I've learned throughout my career is like I've talked about previously. When you put so much emphasis on a game or on like a tournament or whatever, I think you end up making more mistakes because you're just kind of psyching yourself out. Instead, dude, you've been playing for so long, you practice every day, nothing is new. So I wish I had that mindset at that time, and I probably would have had a much calmer mind going into that tournament, which would have made me play better or call better or maybe lead better. I was very bad at that tournament, and I let the team down as a leader at that time, and I learned a lot from it. So yeah, it really just comes down to the experience, understand, finding yourself. It's like you got to be in tune with yourself. Everyone is different, right? So the way that Trent would feel confident for a match or feel calm is different than the way I would, right? So with that said, you as an individual, like as a competitor, need to just find that balance within yourself and understand yourself. So when you go into these games, you know how your like natural response is going to be, your stress response, and how you deal with it. So whether that's like breathing exercises, maybe less caffeine, maybe meditation like the night before, or hitting the gym. Like everyone has their little secret sauce, and you got to find yours, and that's how you become consistent and just like chill for all games.
Right. You guys have been through so many ups and downs as a team, and it took a long time to get where you are. Though you've been great the whole time. It was about crossing the finish line. It always felt like for you guys. And being on the opposite side of that this time, being the team that does cross the finish line and knocking M80 out, who were the new team, very talented, almost made it in a way, mirroring essentially you guys in 2022.
Yeah.
Did you have like feelings of sympathy for them or understanding for that situation after?
Yeah, definitely. I would say right after the match, I was pretty upset because, not to put any like individuals on blast, but there was a lot of like chit chat going on during that game, and They did some things that I didn't appreciate. So right after the game, I'm not gonna lie, I felt kind of petty. I'm not gonna lie. Right after I won, but after I realized like it's just a part of the game, everything's all right. Like it's not that deep. Like I had to kind of calm myself down as well, and I did feel bad because I've been in that situation, and I can't imagine what it's like. I mean, if I backtrack a little bit, I can't like thinking like going into the tournament. There's so much pressure of dude. If you don't win, you're probably gonna lose your job, right? Because why would anyone keep an Ascension roster for 6 months on payroll? So with that said, we would have call outs like, yo, rent or so like rent, like your rent bill. And that would mean like, yo, 5v4, don't throw, like go back. Like just to kind of, you know what I mean? It was like troll, but also it was for real.
Yeah.
So I felt kind of to tie in what I was talking about earlier, I did feel sympathy because I knew that most likely these guys wouldn't have their team or their their payroll, their contract, whatever, and that's hard for anyone, right? So I understood that that's very sad, but they're also talented that I know they'll find homes regardless. But it's scary going through a 6 month off season when you don't have a team, like you don't have an org to back you. So it's like, what are you doing? You're just gonna stream a lot. You have to find another job. Like, what are you gonna do? So yeah, I felt bad.
Yeah.
But it's all a part of the process.
Yeah, for sure. And talking about everything that you guys went through in 2022 leading into this year and finding that success, what do you think are the most significant ways that you've improved as a leader for this team?
I have to kind of gather all my thoughts because there's so many small things.
Sure.
So first, I would say I credit to JoshRT so much because a lot of people like to talk about how, and I'm not trying to boast a lot, but people talk about how great my calling has been in challengers or how great guard looks as a macro team and the leadership looks strong. A lot of that was credit to Josh, and I kind of just went under his wing and listened to him because he's a very smart individual. And I would say the biggest ways I've gotten better as a leader is my the way I talk to my teammates. Like there's this level of confidence. Like when they talk to me, they know like how I feel and they know how confident I am even when I make a call, right? So I sound confident at all times. They believe in me at all times, right? So that energy kind of radiates within the team. The way I go into practice weeks or go before a match, like little pregame talks I have with my team and kind of getting their mindset straight so everyone is focused on the right things, right? Some people go into the match and their focus is on, oh, I got to play really well today, or, I hope I play well, or I can't lose today, or whatever. And I'm trying to get all that bullshit out of their heads. And it's like, guys, just focus on what we do every day in practice. That's what I've been preaching since the start is just one round at a time. You don't overthink it. The scoreboard will always take care of itself, right? It's like a common saying. And then the other thing is just focus on what makes you good as a team. And that's the comms, that's peaking together, that's trading. It's so simple. The game is really so simple. And I try to calm my teammates' mind by reassuring that everything is aligned for us here. It's on a platter. You just got to go in and do what you do every day and you'll win. So I kind of put that level of confidence within the team. And also, I think last year I was too much of a yes man in terms of like talking about comps or talking about how I want to play the game. And this year, I think I put my foot down at the right times with Josh or with my teammates. I'm like, guys, this is the right way. I'm very confident. Just please do this for me. And it ended up working out great. But before, I feel like I wouldn't step up and I wouldn't say that because I was scared of maybe backlash or I didn't want to cause tension within the team. But now I understand that like tension is good at sometimes, and it's just how you deal with it after. And it's all about like relationships, dude. I mean, I'm growing as a person. Like I could go on and on and on about how I've gotten better, but it really just comes down to I'm growing as a person, which is making everyone around me succeed at a higher rate because they have me to like kind of guide them through it. And that sounds, I guess when I just said that, that sounds like I'm trying to take a lot of the credit, but really as the IGL, all of your teammates, regardless, will look up to you because you're the voice of the team. And if you don't sound confident or you don't carry yourself in the right way, how are your guys going to follow you, and listen to you and trust you so that they play better? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
basically all. I just like kind of rambled it
no,
all.
you're
But
fine.
yeah.
Can you expand or break down on the growing as a person from the beginning of the guard till now?
Yeah, I mean, some aspects are like relationships. So that's with my teammates, that's with management, that's with everything. So I've learned how to have better relationships with people, um, and that's directly helped how I speak to my teammates about problems, how I uplift them when they need it, and kind of like I talked about that energy right within the team. I think has gotten a lot better because I understand how to handle my relationships more. Um, Inner like self confidence. I would say as an individual going into these games, I've been calling a lot better, which then gives my teammates confidence because like, oh, Jake's calling well, let's fucking go. We're gonna win this. We know how to beat these guys, um, which I think is important. So I'm going into these games knowing that I deserve to be there and that my reads are right. And if I call like I always do, I'll be okay. Which before, at the beginning of the guard, I would sometimes be a little self conscious about how I call. But now I feel like I have so much confidence within it. So relationships, like self confidence, and then how else have I grown a lot? Just like a big thing is I've learned. So I self reflect a lot, and when you self reflect, you don't actually know if what you're thinking is true or not, right? Because you don't have any like data to back up what you're thinking, if that makes sense. This is about to be like some shit.
I totally understand what you
Yeah.
mean. I do the same thing very, very often. I write a lot about myself and
Yeah.
always try to do that. And I find myself in the same situation 100%.
Yeah. So you don't actually have any data to back up what your thoughts are telling you on what you think is the right way to improve. But then throughout time being in Valorant, I would remember, yo, I thought of this before and I am right because now I have the data. Like you go through the experiences and it kind of gives you that self-confidence that, dude, most of the time when I'm thinking of something, it is the right answer. You know what I mean? And that's what has transformed me in all ways is that when I'm self-reflecting, when I look back on things, because I'm so critical and I kind of weave out what I think is wrong and try to bring in all the right answers, if you get what I'm saying, I have like a self fulfillment of what I'm thinking is correct. And this is the way to do it. And I improve at rapid rates because I believe in myself now. Like, I believe in my second voice in my head telling me, oh, you should have done this in that game. Or in this practice, you probably should have done that. Or in this situation, you could have handled this better. Right. And so I'm just learning with myself, dude. And uh, yeah, it's hard to explain,
I think you're doing a pretty good job.
but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something I remember. I asked Stellar this, as he's also an IGL, about where his ability to lead a team comes from, if it was something that's natural to him. So I want to ask you the same thing. Where does this ability to be in this leadership role come from? Also, your ability to reflect everything you were just saying. Where does this come from?
The reflection, honestly, I'm not sure where it comes from. I think I've always had this like these inner thoughts, like kind of lingering and thinking, but it just came down, like I said, to prove to myself that what I'm thinking is right for me to believe it. And then the leadership stuff. I mean, I played sports my whole life growing up. So I think the sports background of my life kind of taught me what it means to be a team and what it means to be a leader for a team. And I don't think I've had any hands-on experience with being with a great leader. Like honestly, in my high school teams and my middle school like basketball teams, there was no one that was like a huge leadership figure. I've never worked with a huge leadership figure, and that's why I said that Matt was like my biggest mentor because he was like the first one to kind of help me with that. But I would say when I look back on my life, I always took initiative in a lot of things. Um, I was stubborn at times when I needed to be with my parents, which they talk about. I played a lot of sports, so I understand like team and team culture, and I watched a lot of sports. So that's where I kind of saw these leaders for teams stepping up. And I kind of just took in all that information throughout my life and tried to put it in the right areas in the right ways and a lot of trial and error. And now I think I found the recipe for myself on how to be a good leader, and I'm only improving, right? I'm not trying to say I'm perfect or I know exactly how to be the best leader for any team, but I do know for myself that like any new thing to come up in my life, I think I have enough background knowledge to like put the pieces in the right spot and get it done, which is how I'm becoming a better leader every day. But yeah, I would credit it most to sports, just kind of understanding teams.
How seriously were you taking like when you were playing high school football?
So honestly, like I was pretty serious about it. Like my whole life was around football, at the time. But growing up, I was always playing games. So basically, the background is I always grew up playing CS, watching CS, these majors. You know what I mean? That was like my dream. I remember staying up 3 a.m. on school nights watching majors because of like the European time zone, right?
I
And
was doing this. I was doing this.
yeah,
Same
everyone's
thing.
been there.
Yeah.
So
Like 2014, 2015, that era.
yep.
Because that too, I remember for me personally, that's when I was competing in Team Fortress 2 in ESEA Invite. And so I would go to those, I would be at the ESEA lands. And at the time when I first started going, it was just 1.6 and Source. And then when Go came out, and it started going crazy, and they were still in these hotels in Dallas with like no security, no management,
Yeah.
and then it would be like Virtus Pro would be there, and there would be a line of kids out the door, like 100, to
Dude,
try
that's
and meet
insane.
Pasha, and they would just be standing behind all the players. So we're like off in our little corner playing TF2, and then at the time I was getting in like super into CS, and back then I kind of had the same thing where I was like, this is amazing that you can be a pro in an FPS game.
Yeah.
Because there was League and like Dota, whatever, but I did not give a shit about those games. I was only interested in FPS games. So yeah, at the same time I was having that same vision, but
Yeah.
I just didn't end up pursuing it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like a lot of people in esports have kind of gone through that. Like, dude, this is insane. Like, look at this crowd for like a CS event. But yeah, so I was always a gamer, went into high school and kind of I stopped playing all the way up to my junior year because I was just focused on like sports and getting good grades because my parents always like harped on me to get good grades. And then like COVID hit and isolation happens. And I mean, I looking back, it was a night and day. Like it was such an obvious decision that I should quit football and pursue gaming. But it was hard, man. You know, I built good relationships with people. Some of my best friends were on the team. And it was a hard decision to step down from that. But once I really took a step back and I'm like, dude, I'm like 5'8". Why would I ever, why would I ever try to pursue a career in sports when I have this possible opportunity, right? Like, let's wake up here. You're not fucking becoming a D1 athlete, right? So I understood that. I'm not at that level to where I can make anything out of this. Yes, I love doing it, but it's not going to take me anywhere in life. And at the time, I had no connections in Valorant at all either. I had no following. I didn't come from a CS background, so I really had nothing. But I just knew, like, dude, you never know. Like, I played the game. I played CS a little bit. Like, I was like rank G, I was grinding, but I never played on a good team. And I picked up Valorant, and this game felt so good, like off the rip. Like, it was just such a good mix for me of abilities and aiming. It just it felt perfect. And I'm like, dude, if you want to become a pro gamer ever in your life, this is probably your best opportunity. So I grinded every day. I mean, it's isolation, so I can't go outside anyways, right? So I was just playing the game every day, grinding my ass off. And eventually I got hit up by complexity and, still writing my story now.
Yeah. It's funny how many people have such a similar thing. Because also when I was talking to Stellar, he was in a somewhat similar situation, though when the game came out, he was working and then he just went all in on it. At the same time, for me, though obviously I'm not a player, I was just editing videos.
Yeah.
And then started going all in on the like media side of the game. And just everyone who had their opportunity with the game coming out to try and take advantage of it and go all in on it. At the time, for me, I had no ties. I mean, when the game came out, I was like 24, and I think, Stellar was a bit older too. I mean, he's around my age. But for you, you were still in high school, right? And so, I mean, was that how was the reception to that from the family when you were just dropping everything to go,
dude,
dive in?
Yeah, I mean, that feels like it's funny because you bring like I kind of forgot about that because it was such a blur, dude. I'm in online classes, just getting these online classes done with ASAP because it's COVID, and just instantly hopping on the game. And my parents they don't know about esports, and I didn't want to just go up to them and be like, yo, I want to be a pro gamer before I actually got some shit done. So it wasn't until I got my contract from Complexity that I was like, hey, look at this. And I told them all about gaming because they always knew me and my brother were gamers, right? But they didn't know you could actually make a living off of it. So I showed my parents like the Complexity office in Dallas, and I showed them how they're like connected with the Cowboys, and this is so cool. Like, look at the stadium here that I'm gonna be a part of. I'm gonna move to Texas for a little bit, be a part of this team, blah blah blah, and there's money on top of it. So once they saw that there was real money on top of it, and I could make a salary and live off this, it was hard, but they understood, and my mom was so supportive since the beginning that I should try to chase my dreams because this is really a once in a lifetime opportunity. And so she was so supportive, but I didn't think that was going to be the case because growing up, my parents were so like all in on school and you got to go to college, like traditional parenting, right? And they had no idea about this new age stuff about how you can be a pro gamer and make a living off of it. So I had to explain it to them, and they were kind of taking the information slowly as I grew more. I'm like, oh, Mom, I qualified for Iceland. Like, this is insane. She's like, oh my God, congrats. Like, she's learning about, damn, like Jake is growing into this and he's really making a thing for himself. And now they're full on board. Like, they support me so much. Even my dad, when at the time, my dad, I felt like he didn't really care about any of this gaming stuff. It's like, whatever. But now he's like, I go home and he's talking to me about like, oh, like, how's your team doing? And when does the season start? And like asking me these questions, like he's getting more interested, which is so cool to see. Because I never thought it'd come down to this, honestly.
Was there any risk when you went from Complexity to the Guard, or was that just a smooth transition? You knew you wanted to do it. No downtime between that?
Yeah, it was this pretty smooth transition. I don't think I had too much anxiety or worries about the transition. I think a fresh opportunity to kind of build the team around myself, because at the time I got pitched that it was me, Net, and Psom. So I'm like, okay, I get to pick the last two players like with the team and kind of start this org from nothing. That was the pitch, right? The Guard was not an org before like I was a part of the team. They just had like the Gladiators and the Gorillas. And then they made like the parent team, the Guard. And I'm like, dude, this is an incredible opportunity. So I felt like right away, it felt like the right decision. And it wasn't like I was getting insane results on Complexity either. Obviously, if my team was playing incredible, it'd be tough. But in all honesty, we weren't that insane. So I was like, yeah, it's a bit risky to leave my teammates for something new. But what's the worst that can happen? It's not like I'm winning VCT right now. Like, let's see. And I ended up creating a pretty good squad. And yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah. Did you end up having a lot of say in how that roster was formed and building it yourself? And then also MCE came in, and was that... Okay. What was the collaborative effort like between the two of you for that?
Yeah, so at first we held like trials on our own. It's just like me, Net, and Som were trialing people to see who we liked playing with. And then MCE got finalized like a week after like we were trialing, and then he kind of structured everything. He's like, okay, who did you guys like? Oh, we liked sayaplayer and this guy. Okay, let's bring them in. Also, to add, dude, Saya was trialing on Flex at the beginning for us.
You had him back on like the T1
back when he was like
roles
T1
where
flexing.
they were trolling him.
Yeah, and then we're like, why is this guy not on Jet?
Sitting on platform every single round on Haven on that team.
So we trialed him as like a Sky Flex, and we're like, he's not that great. But then Matt is like, are you guys dumb? Like, why is this guy not on Jet right now? This guy, Matt, the thing he told me was the only time T1 gave Gen G at the time problems in practice is when sayaplayer was on Jet. That's what he said. He's like, dude, sayaplayer on Jet is dropping 30s on my team every scrim. And they don't let him play it. I'm like, all right, let's see. And ever since then, I'm like, yeah, this guy's insane. Because at the beginning, he's playing Sky. I'm like, this guy's mid, right? And then we put him on where he deserves to be on Duelist. And he played so lights out in scrims. We're like, okay, this is the guy. But yeah, so at the time, we were just pick and choosing, like me, Sam, and Net. And then Matt came in and brought the structure. And we're like, all right, we're going to trial this guy today. We like him. Okay, we're going to trial this guy. And, put the structure behind everything.
What was it like playing under MC Matt initially? And what was it like as time went on? Because there's definitely, I think, a perception of him that didn't exist as much during the time with the guard based on how you see him behaving with Cloud9. Like when it goes to the pause and it looks like he's just going nuclear on them during the timeouts and that kind of thing. Was that a similar thing? Because we just didn't even see it then. I mean, you guys were playing online, so we wouldn't have even known.
Nah, Matt's definitely the same with when he was with us. I would say that MCE, he knew that what he was dealing with, you have a team of young guys here that have potential in the game. So he was trying to be very, he was like watching his steps, right? Like he was not trying to be too aggressive off the rip. And it was a good dynamic. But once we started going through a lot of problems, I would say that's when you see like the Matt nowadays with Cloud9, like kind of like aggressive, but in like a good way, honestly. That's when it started to be more of a problem. Or I wouldn't even say problem, but that's when it started to arise more. And like when the issues came. But at the end of the day, we knew like he's just trying to get us better. That's just how he is as a person. So we tried not to take it too hard. But yeah, I mean, you just didn't see it, but it was the same on our team. I would actually say that Matt has gotten better because there were moments back then where things got pretty heated between like the players and his reaction to things sometimes. But when I watch Cloud9, I think that he took his lesson. Everyone learns and grows, right? So he learned from us like what like boundaries and making sure you try not to cross those because that's important for people and for teams. So when I watch Cloud9, it is the same. Yeah, he's like kind of going nuts on the players, but I don't think it's anything bad or he doesn't cross the line or anything like that, which is good.
Do you think that in a way maybe that personality type and his approach is what you guys as a new team needed
Yeah, 100%.
To fit together?
I think so. I think that's why everyone knows Matt as like he can create any play. He can create anything out of nothing in terms of players. Like how he took us rookies to qualifying for Reykjavik, or how he took the Cloud9 two guys into becoming stars at VCT and building this roster of people thought they were going to be terrible into being like number 2 at Americas or whatever. And that's because I think for new talent, rookies, his like aggressive coaching style and how he kind of tears you down, but also brings you back up in a way that he thinks is the right. He'll look at you and he'll think, okay, how do I make this player better? And he'll kind of tear you down on your bad plays and then build you up when you do great as well, to kind of shape you into someone that he wants as a player or what he thinks is the best for you. He'll try to shape you into the best way possible, given your strengths. But so I think, yeah, that was necessary. But my only critique would be once a player is developed in the sense of he understands himself and he's in tune with himself and he kind of has an identity as a player, I don't think that style necessarily is helpful because at least for me, I value like calm energy and going into games clear-minded with, no anxieties and stuff like that. And in my opinion, when you have an aggressive voice like that in the team, sometimes those anxieties can kind of linger onto you. So yeah, it's like a double-edged sword. For a rookie, I think that style is so good, like traditional, like hard coach. But once someone has an identity and they've been in it long enough, I don't think they need that. And I think it's more about kind of not being too much of an asshole, but just giving it in like a nice way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Were those anxieties set in and playing with him as the coach? Is that where you kind of had the struggles of being a yes man? Was it hard to voice your
Yeah.
opinion against that kind of aggressive coaching?
Yeah, no, definitely. I would say I was a bit scared of like backlash at that time because, like I said, I was a rookie and I didn't know at the time what was right and what was wrong. So I would think these, like I talked about earlier in the
Yeah.
podcast, how I would like self reflect and think, and I would think of what I believe is right, but I would never voice my opinion because I didn't know if I was right or wrong. I'm just kind of listening to my coach guide me, which was okay. We were having good results and I thought highly of Matt. So I was super down to just kind of stay on the back foot and let him control things. And that's where I kind of fell into like the yes man trap where I'm just like agreeing with everything and not putting my foot down when I think it's right. Cause and that's through learning, right? I've been through situations with Matt where I felt like I should have maybe put my foot down a bit more and I didn't. And I learned through that mistake and now I do. And, with like comps and stuff, sometimes he would pitch a comp and I would just be like, all right, let's do it. Even though I felt like it wasn't the move. And we would like struggle in practice and I'll be like, dude, we should change the comp. And it's just like so many issues with that, man. It's just my communication with him was not great. And that's on me. But at the time, I felt like I couldn't project my voice because I didn't know if I was right. And that's where I learned to trust myself more and speak up when I think it's necessary.
Did you guys feel the synergy and the kind of like magic of the team straight away, or did that come after a little bit of time with his coaching style, with a little bit of practice, or was there just that immediately clicked? Everything clicked.
Everything clicked when we got Trent. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like we were playing with Peace on before, and things weren't working out. We were losing like a lot of matches or losing a lot of scrims that we felt like we shouldn't be losing. And Matt put his foot down and made the roster decision to pick up Trent. And ever since we got Trent, we won like at NSG. We beat T1, and everything clicked since then. I was like, dude, this kid is insane.
I remember I cast that event. That was the very rare me casting, and that was I remember. I remember watching that game, the T1 game, and then I can't remember. You played some team in the finals and you just smoked, but yeah, I remember casting that and had no idea who Trent was, and it was just immediately so obvious that he was such a talent.
Yeah. So it kind of just having this young guy on the team that, dude, it's like this little kid, bro. This little kid straight out of high school is on my team, just running around killing everyone. And it's like, that gives me so much confidence that regardless of what game I'm going into, I know this guy is about to pop off. You know what I mean? When you have that player on your team, it like eases your mind to just play normal because you know this guy's got you, bro. Just play decent and you'll probably win. So it clicked right away. The vibes were immaculate, like right off the rip. The vibes felt like, we were high school boys. Everyone's pretty young on the team, and we all had similar personalities. And then him coming in as well just topped everything off. And yeah, it felt like it was magical from the beginning. And with every win, especially through VCT, with every win was just like more assurance that like, yeah, we actually are that team. Like we're going to qualify. We're going to do it. And there was a certain point where it felt like we could actually do no wrong. And we were meant for this. Like, dude, I was going into these matches in like VCT playoffs to qualify for Reykjavik. And in my head, I'm like, there is 0% chance we are going to lose today. And that is a rare, true confidence to have. Some people will say that, but to really believe it and have that like self-confidence of there's 0 chance you're losing, just like, it's so rare, man. It's so rare. And it's because the amount of effort we were putting in and like the click, everything was so good. The honeymoon, you know what I mean? It was just hitting, bro. It was hitting and we couldn't lose.
When you got back after the losses at Reykjavik, did the magic go away? Did you have to like rebuild a more sound foundation from that point?
Yeah, after we lost, we understood like, we had our run. It was great, but we need to build a more sustainable team because like I talked about earlier, we were not that developed as players. Even though we qualified for Reykjavik and we're like number 1 NA at one point, we were not that developed as players. And so we kind of took those losses on the chin and understood what we had to improve on to become a better team. Stuff like having a more consistent game plan, better calling was a big thing for me. I felt like my calling was kind of just like RNG a little bit. Like I would call. It felt like I understood I understood my concepts and why I'm making the calls. I'm not just like picking and choosing strats, but to have like a game plan, to have a true game plan and understanding of if this goes wrong, this is your backup plan. This is how you exploit this player. This is how, if you need like a fallback option, you start going into this. Okay, once they adjust, this entire game plan that's so deep and complicated was not instilled in the team and not instilled in me as a caller. Now I would say it is, but yeah. And we also went through some agent changes. Like we tried to put Saya on Chamber. We tried Jonah on Duelist at one point, Trent on Duelist. We tried so many things because we weren't playing Chamber because Saya was our Duelist. And man, we went through so many like agent problems at that time. We were so slow to like adjust to the meta. And that's when we went like 1-4 or whatever in split 2 or split 2. We just couldn't find our footing. And to go from the highs of qualifying for Iceland and making these events to just bombing out like that was very tragic on our mental because we weren't used to losing. In all honesty, we won out the whole first part of the year. But then we go through that losing phase, and that's where the learning came. That's where I would say the biggest development of our team came through is after split 2 loss. We understood like, yes, we're good. Yes, we play this way, or yes, we're good. And yes, we have this style of play that is working, but it's not a consistent approach. And that's where we really had to learn like these concepts of how to play the game at a more consistent level. And that's where a lot of our growth came from.
How much now has your new coach, Josh, done in regards to the depth of the play that you were talking about?
Dude, JoshRT does not get enough credit. This guy, if you just look at the 5 players on the guard before Ascension, our play style, the way we call, the way we move around the map, the way we peek together, and you look at us now, we are night and day better. And that is a lot of credit to Josh for being like so smart at the game, man, and so hardworking. We had a one person coaching staff, no analysts. We had no assistant coaches, no help, and it was only Josh. And he developed me into like a very great like IGL. At least I would like to think so. And he developed all my players into star talent, man. Everyone is just so good now. It's like brings a smile to my face to think about how we were before and how we were now. But yeah, man, JoshRT, he would literally break the game down as like he's teaching a class. It would be like, all right, guys, today we're gonna talk about team IQ, and we talk about team IQ and like what that means and how we break it down, and that's the practice focus for as long as it needs to be until we get it down. And it's like, next thing, okay, set ult plays. We're going to work on that. That's the topic. We talk about it, when it's good to pull it out. All this, dude, literally like it's out of a fucking textbook. This guy's putting it on the screen. And he has these notes and like, you know what I mean? What else? I can't leak too much because that's his coaching. But yeah, man, he's so brilliant, and he reads a lot of books, so he understands like the psychological factor of being a player and competing. So he was helping with that as well on top of in game. That guy was a performance coach, a head coach, a strategic coach, everything in one. I got to give all the credit to him because he taught me the more like I guess the best way I can word this is like the CS approach to the game. And obviously I'm a huge, like, I hate when people say like, oh, Valorant is the same as CS or it's the same game. It's obviously not, but the consistent approach to rounds and how you handle mid-rounding situations and all these things, like these are all fundamentals that came from where he originally played in CS. So he had all this knowledge. And for me, I took my Valorant side because I was all Valorant side. I had no like CS brain. I took all my Valorant brain, combined it with how he thinks is in a consistent way to approach rounds, like using CS stuff. And we would watch a lot of NRG. Like we were watching Pujan call a lot, like because he's like the most advanced caller in the mid round, I would say. So watch a lot from him, and just combine the two forces. And I think I have a really good grasp on how to approach the game right now. But with Valorant, you always got to be thinking next. So as much as I like to think I have a good approach right now, things change. So I got to keep innovating and keep improving. And I hope, JoshRT thinks the same, because the way he improved as a coach as well was night and day. Because, yeah, the way he was on NRG versus guard, he's like 10 times better. At least that's what Tex was telling me. So
I wanted that. That segues into what I was going to ask about, because I think Tex has been on a totally different echelon with your team than he was previously. And I think warranted to some extent. I was somewhat skeptical of him joining the team initially because I thought he was good on NRG, but I felt like if you guys had a star player, you were just going to be on a totally different level at that point.
Yeah.
But he became that guy.
Yeah.
And so what is the difference that Josh had been 10 times better and that had elevated his play? And then also just being in your team, in your system, around your guys, that has transformed him.
Yeah, so it all goes back to when we first picked up Ian or Tex. It was mainly like Josh's call. Like, we were trialing some duelists, and honestly at the time, it's not like we had incredible options. Like, because I remember people were saying, oh, if Guard picked up a star duelist, they'd be insane. They'd sweep challengers, whatever. But we really didn't have some insane option that was clear night and day. So then we were like, oh, Tex is for sure the best choice. Mechanically, the strongest player out of the bunch we had. And the way that I think Josh, the reason why he wanted Tex so bad is because, one, they have prior experience together, and two, Ian also kind of brings that like fundamental process to rounds, because he came from a higher level CS background and played under Josh and played under these better players like Ethan and IGLs like Hayes and stuff like that. So he kind of understood already the way we want to approach the game, or how Josh had this plan of how he wanted to fix the guard and make it good. And I think Ian was the perfect fit for how he wanted to approach this team and how to coach it, if that makes sense. Because when I talked to Josh, he's like, yeah, I watched all your VODs before I joined you guys, and I created this game plan on how to improve this team before I even stepped in. So with that in Josh's mind, he definitely picked the fifth that would help him kind of push that style of play into our team to make us the best. And that's why I think Ian thrives so well, is because this is the style that he's best at. A hybrid strategy where he's good at making fast pace and explosive plays that the guard was previously known for, but now also bringing in the slow mid-round aspects where we freeze, we double back, we even triple back if we need. We always try to make the correct pivots. That's where he thrives. And I think that's why he performs so well on this team, is because he's used to that style, and that's how he likes to push the game as well.
What is something or multiple things about Trent that he brings to the team that no one would know about? Because it's so obvious what he brings if you just watch the game. But I'm curious about beyond the game, the things that viewers would never see.
Well, he's like the perfect teammate because he can literally play any role. And I don't say that about anyone in the game, but Trent can actually play any role, which makes my life and Josh's life so much easier when you're trying to like create new comps and create, different like one-off comps, right? So he's so good for that. Obviously everyone sees him pop off. And I would say he's becoming a very smart player as of now. And I tell him this all the time. Me and Trent are very close. But before, he was actually just like a brain dead aimer. Like, he didn't calm very much. He didn't really give many ideas. As an initiator player, he didn't set up his teammates. He didn't call his util, right? And that's warranted. Like, he was a ranked player, but he was so talented. And now, especially, and I'm talking like recently, especially after Brazil, Trent found his footing as a player, and now he calls his util so much better. His util usage is night and day better. the way he sets up his teammates, the way he calms, the way he will change the mid round if he sees something. He always had this innate nature, it feels like, for the game to understand the feel, but he just never spoke up about it. And I would say it kind of tailors back to what I was talking about, where I felt like I had the right things in my head, but I would never speak up about it. Dude, that's with every player. I feel like career trajectory, these star players always know like what is right and like how to approach things, but they don't know if they're actually right. You know what I mean? They don't want to speak up and kind of put that pressure on themselves. And Trent, now that he's developed more, he's going into his second year, or yeah, second year now. He kind of has that inner confidence with himself that's like, yep, I know what I'm saying is right. I have the results to prove it. And now I'm going to be the best I can, if that makes sense. Like he has that confidence to speak up more now. And that, the person I can relate him to the most now is someone like Crashies. How Crashies has such a big voice on NRG, and he calls so much for that team. The little things like always updating comms when you watch their comm videos or you watch him play. That's someone that me and Josh are trying to mold Trent into, because that is so valuable for a team. Is when you're like a flex initiator, or when your info initiator is popping off, man. Like you look at all these teams that are great, and they all have these like star initiators that will call in the mid round. Call in the mid round, call for plays, set their teammates up well, all these things, you know.
When you're talking about being a young player and finding your voice and the confidence to speak up, do you think that applies to Net and Jonah as well?
Yeah, I would say Jonah, I think because he's a little older and he played like CS for a bit on teams, I think he's already been through that phase where he's gone through that. So I haven't seen that directly with him. I would say he's always kind of been the same approach in terms of how much he speaks up about things. And it's good. For Net, I would say it's the same thing as me, because before he would just kind of bottle in feelings and bottle in ideas and try not to speak up too much about things. And now I think he's very vocal. And, you know, for Brazil, like recently, he was speaking up a lot in like the anti-stratting parts of our game plan and our map veto selection. Like he was speaking up a lot more, finding his voice on defense as well. Like he was talking a lot on defense. And I think that's because he's more confident within himself. It's all the same, really, especially now that I've witnessed it for myself. I can see it within my players too, because we've all started our careers roughly the same. I'm going into my third year. Net and Trent are going into their second. So I have like that 1 year ahead. So I'm not like some old wise dude who's like, yeah, I know exactly how your career is going to turn out. I've been there, done it all. But for me to have 1 year on them, it feels like we're going through the same path, in a sense, where it's like I've been through these obstacles and this is how I got out of it. And so when I see them going through it, I'll reassure them like, dude, this is normal. Like what you're going through, don't feel bad about it. It's normal. Find your voice, like speak up when you think it's right. And yeah, so I'm trying to help them with that. And I think they're doing much better with that as well.
I have heard more positive things about Net as a player behind the scenes than maybe anyone else, as to what he brings, that also sort of similar to what I asked about Trent, that no one knows about. Could you kind of speak to that?
Yeah. So the things about Mike is he's by far the hardest worker. Like that guy, he's always playing. Now I tell him sometimes, yo, too much ranked, bro. Like chill on the ranked, you know, but he does it because he always wants to stay in top form. He always watches VODs, grinds VODs, and tries to implement new things for the team. And I'm like, yo, I saw this team do this. We should add this. Or, you know what I mean? That is so valuable for a team. And that's rare to find consistently, sorry. Because one thing I want to touch on is players like that do things like Net, where they watch a bunch of VODs and bring things into the team and do all this extra stuff. Bro, people will do that for like the first couple months of a team and then stop doing it. Like, people don't know this shit, but some of these players are actually fraudulent, where you'll play with them for a bit and they'll seem so insane. Like they're bringing new things to prac and they're doing all this extra stuff, and then it just goes away eventually. But Net is that player, but throughout the entire season. You know what I mean? Yeah. Is the best way I would put it. He always does the extra step, but at a consistent basis. He helps call on defense. which helps me a lot. I can just focus on attack. And the dynamic for that is like he'll call like setups and he'll call like some pushes, but we have a pretty like open system on defense. But if I have like a set call that needs to be made, it always comes back to like my call, right? So I trust him and he'll trust me when I feel like I need to put my foot down on the round. Like, nope, we're gonna run this setup right now and win the round. So yeah, he contributes so much. He's so valuable, and he deserves a lot more like respect in that sense of being like a super important part of the team and the strategy behind the team as well.
Gotcha. And in a similar way to what I asked about Tex with Josh and yourself in the system, I feel like Jonah has also gotten significantly better over the past year. Do you think it's a similar story?
Yeah. I mean, I think for Jonah, he's as like the initiator role as well. He's more. It's funny to say, but he's more initiative on the initiator. So he'll like set up people more. He'll guide the flow of the rounds more, which just helps everyone kind of keep the same focus in the round. Like no one drifts away and does their own thing because Jonah can kind of help guide the pace, which before he didn't do often. His counter util has improved so much. Like he's the one person where I think he's gotten better the most in game, but out of the game, Jonah has been the same since I've met him on complexity till now. Actually, I would say he's been like the same person, but he's had the most in-game improvements. While the others like me, Net, Trent, because we're young, we're having out-of-game improvements. Like we're becoming more mature and able to have like some conversations better because we're like learning that way. But Jonah has already always had that, so now he's just like improving a lot in the game.
Yeah, I gotcha. At this point, could you ever see yourself playing without these guys? I mean, you've just been together for so long.
I mean, I would like to think so. Yeah, I think I could. Would I want to? No. I think I found a great group of guys to kind of keep my career flowing with. I think the way we improve, the way we handle losses, wins together is special, and I don't think many teams have this. But to answer your question, I think I could see a world playing without them just because, like, I'm confident within myself that regardless of what happens, I'll be able to make things work. And I think they would say the same thing. I know my guys, they're all confident that they would be able to play without each other, but we're also aware enough to understand that we play our best with each other. So while, yes, we'd be able to move on and kind of take our own path somewhere else, we don't want to. We want to stay together.
Yeah. I mean, you said aspects of how you work together is special. How is your bond with the four of you guys, and Tex included, but, you know, those four since you've been together for 2 years now, how has that grown from the beginning of the team till now?
I mean, you can imagine just like any relationship with people at the start versus 2 years later, we understand each other more. We understand how they respond to situations, any like stressful situations, when we lose, when we win. Like we understand the ins and outs of each other because dude, when you're on a team, you're always with these people all the time. You're with these people all the time. So you really understand them and like their personality and, you know, what pisses them off, what makes them happy, all these things. And we can tailor how we talk to one another. So when you're giving feedback, like we understand how to tailor to each other, how to get the most out of each other. The most important is that we're just great friends outside of the game. We celebrate our wins with each other. We get over losses together. And like, dude, all these things, I'm telling you, a lot of these teams don't have. Like, they don't have this like brotherhood like we do. And I think that's what the buff is that like, dude, during Brazil, we didn't scrim once. We literally just spent every day like self-preparing as like in game, and then we would just like chill, like play Uno in our hotel room all night. We would just play Uno for like 3 hours and just bond and have fun with each other. And I think that's what's rare for these teams is that they don't have that kind of aspect. And dude, when you have that much trust and like love for one another, you just play better.
And then to that point, that just speaks to everything you were telling me about Josh, about the preparation, just the trust that you guys have in the work that you put in before the events, before the matches, just what you've built together as the system. So
yeah, with Josh, like, because we've been through some things this year that I don't want to speak too like specific on, but like org related problems or stuff like that. And he's always just kept our heads straight with these things. Like he was the pivotal leader for the team whenever we had these like outside distractions. Like, like when the massive layoffs at the guard, we don't know what's going to happen to our jobs. Some other things like when we missed out on our boot camp, like some other problems that happened within our team, and he just kept our heads straight and made sure we kept pushing forward in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And then heading forward from now, the present, into next year, the partnership. Again, there's yourself and Net are free agents, or your contracts expired, something along those lines.
That's what it's rumored.
Right, that's what it's rumored.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Basically, yeah, of course. But question being, just because I feel like I have to ask it, would be a fool not to, which is just, you guys intend on continuing to play together?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I don't know how much I can speak on it because everything is kind of behind closed doors, but we've already spoke to each other and we're on the same page that if everything makes sense for us on like business side of things, we would like to play with each other. So it really comes down to like how the off season is going to go for everyone. If someone's going to get an insane offer and that maybe the team doesn't, or maybe the org doesn't want to match or something, you know what I mean? Like, you get what I'm trying to say. Basically,
yes.
We want to play with each other, but sometimes it's not up to us.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And when you're thinking about that and considering the future, or I guess how much do you consider the future past this stage in your life? Or do you feel like you're purely lost in the moment, in the competition, in what you're doing right now?
I think myself, I'm a person who thinks a lot about the future, and I try to set myself up for the future. And what I mean by that is like I'm trying to like build up other avenues after I'm done being a pro, which is why you see me on the desk a lot, for example. Like I'm trying to build my skills so I can do other things besides being a player. But when I just like kind of ground myself and think in the now, it's all competition. I don't think about 1 year from now, 2 years from now, when it's go time. Like when it's time to practice, when it's time to go into season, like that's all my focus is on, is being the best player I can, being the best leader, growing, all that. And then when I have off time like this, I try to branch out and think about the future, and like build other avenues of after I'm done being a pro.
Yeah, for sure. I have a quote of something that you had said previously, which was, I promise we're not going to let you down in Iceland. This wasn't a fluke. We put in the work. Give us more time, and we'll beat the international competition as well. When you hear that now, what do you think moving forward with those words uttered?
I mean, at the end, I said, if you give us more time, we'll beat the international competition too. And I mean, we did at Brazil, I guess. And then I guess it's not tier 1 level, but I mean, I was very confident when I said that. I really did think that we were going to go into Reykjavik like dominating, just because, dude, I just beat like every team in NA. So I had like insane confidence. And yeah, when I look back, I mean, I don't think I lied. You give us some more time, and so next year we'll be playing international competition as well. I'm pretty confident we'll qualify for some of the events, and we'll beat them there. Maybe it took a little bit more time than anticipated, but we'll get it done.
Still got there?
Yeah.
All right. Got one more very crucial question.
All right.
All right. Every year on National Girlfriend Day, you post a picture of Derrek taking you out to dinner. And in fact, you post a lot of pictures of Derrek taking you out to dinner. Can you tell me about the love that you two have for each other?
Yeah, I mean, Derrek is my boy. Like, he was one of my first friends when I got into Valorant, we would play ranked a lot with each other, and I could tell, like, dude, in an industry filled with people who you never know what their intentions are, I feel like Derrek is very pure, and has good intentions, and he just wants to be like a friend, right? So, with that said, I always value those relationships a lot. So, like, that's my boy. And I remember at the time, yeah, like whenever I have the opportunity, whenever like he's in the conversation, I always post some picture about Derrek because that's what I got in the folder. Like that, it's ready to go at any time. But yeah, I mean he's a great friend, and I'm grateful to have someone like that in the scene because yeah, I don't know. I'm usually pretty reserved, and it's hard to know like what people are in for sometimes. But he's cool.
Yeah, for sure, man. No, I appreciate you doing this very much. You just gave me the easiest interview of my life.
Yeah.
I think I just asked questions and shut up, and it was just that easy. But
Thank
thanks,
you.
man. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having
All
me.
right,
I appreciate it.
we're good to go.